Hey guys, welcome back to the Becoming TV series, exploring the deep truths and principles that will enable you become everything you were created to be, do, and have. This is William Awana Fishes. Now, what does that mean? Well, obviously, when you heard that or when you read that, something must have popped in your head, and obviously, that something would have been, for those of you who know the story, one of the most famous miracles recorded in the Bible, which is something that Jesus performed. And what did he do? He fed a crowd of 5,000 men, excluding women and children. The interpretation being that at least there must have been at least 10,000 people, 5,000. Okay. And how did he do that? By multiplying 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Just 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. 7 items that a young boy brought, which was actually the lunch of the young boy. He used it. Jesus used it and multiplied them, and fed 5,000, at 10,000 at least. Not only that, at the end of the day, there were 12 baskets full. 12 baskets full. Now, what is the point of that story, and how does that apply to us? For me, right, what it teaches is that you have to be able to recognize your limits, and you also have to be able to recognize uh, that there is a factor, call it the X factor if you will, that there is a factor that is over and above what we're able to accomplish physically. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, all the things that we're able to do, all the things that are embedded within us, our natural gifts, our natural talents, our predispositions, our skills, right? They can only take us so far. Um, if you want to become a global influence, for instance, and right now you're just one person with a dream or with an idea, right? In order for you to become a global influence, it means that you must somehow translate your idea or your dream from where you are right now and somehow be able to reach the globe. Now, of course, you can say you can do that through social media because the world is a global village, etc. But that they will accept your message. In other words, beyond your desire, beyond your activity, beyond your talent alone, there is something that must come into play to multiply your efforts and make it relevant to a global audience or an international audience or a national audience or an audience that is beyond where you are right now. The X factor, right? And in the story, the X factor was Jesus because he had the power of, the spiritual power to multiply the loaves and fish. But that's not even the real lesson. The real lesson is that don't um, don't stress yourself trying to do what you're not supposed to do. Let me put it this way. Your job is not to feed the 5,000. I want you to get that. Your job is not to feed the 5,000. Your job is to produce the loaves and fish. What do you have? That's your job. What do you have and what can you give? What can you serve? That's your job. Identifying what you have, developing it, and serving it, saying to God, this is what I have, this is what you gave me. Now I'm giving it to you. God's job is to multiply that and distribute it to a global audience or the international audience or whatever audience that you're supposed to reach. That's his job. That's not your job. So the job description details everything that you're supposed to do under your job schedule, your job role. You do one, two, three, four, five, six, 7, 8, 9, 10, and that's it, right? Don't go doing some other person's job. That's not your responsibility. So your JD, your job role, is to produce your loaves and fish. And of course, you can't produce it if you haven't first identified it. and if you haven't developed it, and if you haven't produced it to a point where you can serve it. So all of God's job is to multiply it. So don't stress about multiplication, about feeding the 5,000. That's not your job. Your job is to produce it. What do you have? Start with what you have. Whatever it is that you have, whatever it is that you're able to produce, whatever it is that you're able to develop from the gifts that you already have, that's your job. Produce that. Produce that. And then hand over the rest to that. Multiply it and feed the 5,000. And bang, bang goes your life. So in the quest for success, recognize what your job is, which is producing the loaves and fish, and recognize what the X Factor's job is, or God's job is, which is to feed the 5,000. So don't be confused about the two roles. Your job, produce loaves and fish, and hand it over. All right. See you soon.